Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. It's Kim here, and today is our Techniques Tuesday, and we are working on flowers, more flowers. So I've brought some stuff to the table, and today I'm working with this. It's a red velour spandex material. If you watched my Thrifty Canucks video, the last one I just did, I've picked this up at the thrift shop. It was a red costume, sort of like a medieval dress with a black down the center, and it had ties that tied it up and really wide sleeves and stuff. And I said I was going to use it to cut up for flowers. Spandex material is horrible. Horrible to work with. It stretches to no end in one direction, and then it's a little bit firmer the other direction. So usually that's the way I cut it. It's not easy to cut a straight line with this stuff. It rolls up on itself. It's just a nightmare. I don't know how people make costumes with this. Usually I use it for making flowers because I really don't care how it turns out. Because, you can't really make too many mistakes with making the flowers. And if I were desperate to use this as like a book cover or something where I needed it to be very, very straight, then I would probably adhere some heat and bond to the back so that I could actually cut it straight, because it's nearly impossible to make this perfectly straight. But the results with this are beautiful, and that's the only saving grace this fabric has. Otherwise I would bypass it every time. The results are beautiful, and the fabric is thin enough to bulk up to make flowers, and they just turn out gorgeous, which is what you'll see later. So, we'll get started making some, but, if you want to use this for other projects, I would recommend that you get some heat and bond and iron it on the back first, or, something to stabilize it so that you can use it. So I did cut it up into some strips. Where are we here? And they aren't perfect strips. I've got a few pieces done. Yeah. And they're not perfect. If you were to look at this closely, you would see, well, this is not too bad of straightness. But you can see how it curls up there pretty quickly. So what I did is, this is going to make a 2-inch wide flower. So I cut a strip 2 inches wide. And this is about approximately 11 inches long. Thereabouts. Yeah, it's about 11 inches long. And so what I did, and this is the sewing that you have to do for this flower, is I just stitched it along one edge, did just a loose single stitch, but I did do a back stitch on it a little bit so that it wouldn't come undone. So that's the only sewing machine sewing that you have to do, because you want to make it into like a bracelet. That's the best way to explain it. And so, yeah, I've sewn them, and I sewed it with white thread. You can sew it with any color, for the most part, it's not going to show, but normally I would sew it with red, but I had white in the machine, and I started doing these, and with the idea that you can see them. And then when you sew it, you've got those little curled up bits. So I just took my scissors after it was sewn and trimmed this back. And again, I started out with an 11-inch piece by 2 inches if you want to keep track of the measurements. This one I haven't sewn, so I will keep that aside. And I also did a 4-inch one, but I've already made one, so I will show you the made one because these take too long. The longer ones. Now the 4-inch wide one is 4 inches wide, and it's about 18 inches long. But this was really just to show you how I trim them. And these little bits and pieces, I will keep these because I use these in my clusters. I just stitch right through them and, kind of zigzag over top of them, and it's just fun. So I'm going to put this 4-inch one aside for now, but I will concentrate on making one out of this smaller 2-inch wide one. And so, yeah, that's the only stitching you need to do. If you wanted to manually stitch it, you can. You just might want to take smaller stitches or go back at least one time, going around the edges, just so that you know it's secure. And I'm going to turn it right side out, but I'm also going to fold it in half and tuck that back inside. Okay, so that it's now, instead of being 2 inches wide, it's only 1 inch wide, and it's got the finished side on the outside all the way around. Okay, I'm just... And yes, it stretches to high heaven. You know, this is not bad because of the way I've cut it, so you might want to play around to see which is the best way to cut it if you get this. Where do you get this? You can buy it. It's called a stretch velour spandex, or, you know, or just ask for where they have costume stuff and you'll find it. I would highly recommend that, you know, you just check out the costume section in any one of your thrift shops, or the children's play section. Usually, you know, dress-up clothes are made out of this type of material, fairy dresses, you know, that kind of stuff. And you can get much nicer colors. But yeah, I wouldn't invest a lot of money in this. I don't think it's expensive, actually, when I think about it. I think it's about $3 or $4 a meter, but you know, a meter is a lot. So if you're not sewing serious stuff with it, if you're just making flowers, I would keep an eye out for this kind of stuff at the thrift shop. So once you've got it turned, and now it's going to slide around, so I will have to adjust it as I go. I match up the two seams, and I start either just before the seam or just after the seam. And my thread is way up here. I gotta go grab a needle here quickly. And you know, I always have several needles ready to go when I start stitching stuff. So I'm going to start before the seam, if you can see where the seam is here. And I'm holding the two wrong sides together. So you have the folded side over here on this edge, and you have the open side on this side. And I'm holding the two pieces together, and I'm just going to start stitching, gathering stitch or a slip stitch in and out, making sure that I'm matching up the edges. And just go around. And yes, you got to watch me do the whole thing. I know it's painful. I watch you do stuff too. And usually this is the kind of stuff that I do when I'm watching videos. Now, you don't have to use this stretch velour. I use other fabrics too. You just have to play around with your measurements. Usually, when it's 2 inches wide, I tend to go about, you know, anywhere from about 10 to 12 inches. And if it's 4 inches wide, I tend to go around, you know, 18 to 20 inches in length. So I'm just going around, holding the two fabrics in place, in and out stitch. Friday night special, as I always tell you. And I like to leave a little bit of a tail hanging because that's what I use to tie off at the end. Keeping them matched together. And just watching that your needle doesn't get, your thread doesn't get tangled. And we're almost at the end here. One more time. And it doesn't matter which side you do it from, you know, it's the same on both sides. So you can fix it if there's any threads showing afterwards. So I've come around so you can see my 2 white threads hanging here. Like I said, normally I would do this with something that is a little bit more complementary. Not that it really matters. You won't see it in the end. And I'm just pulling the one that has the needle on, because I've left this kind of a long tail, so I'm hoping I can catch some of it back here onto the needle. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so it's not as long now. And I'm just going to hold on to it, this tail one, and pull the other one tight. Oh, I let go. Just so I have something to tie the 2 together. So once it's nice and tight, it's just a slip knot, and I do 3. You know, I do 2 to knot it and 1 for good luck, as I always tell you. And you know, I just watched a video today of somebody else making some other kind of flower, and they did the same thing, except they said, I say 1 for good luck, and she said 1 extra for good measure. So I thought that was pretty cool. Now, sometimes if there's a lot of bulk in your fabrics, there will be a tiny, tiny little hole here. You can just stitch it closed if you like. I'm just going to leave it because I know what I'm going to put in the center. And just going to cut those threads. Now you saw me using those other scissors. I'm just going to get this needle out of the way for a second. But they are my good fabric sewing scissors, so I don't leave them on the table here because I don't want to cut paper with them. And I will. So once you've got it knotted, you can do a little bit of shaping to it. And it's that quick and easy. And look how pretty that is. And how luxurious is that, right? And how do we know how beautiful it's going to be? We just drop a little one of those gems that we made. There's the small gem. Isn't that gorgeous? I just love these. I never get tired of making these flowers. And that is the saving grace for this fabric. Otherwise, I would never buy this fabric. But when I see it, you know, sometimes I'll see a little girl's top made out of it, you know, in purple velvet or crushed green velvet or pink. You know, not that I do a lot of pink, but, you know, sometimes I have to do pink for my work. So I will pick these things up. Like this makes a beautiful little hair barrette. You just have to glue your center in and then glue a barrette on the back, and a little girl can wear this in their hair. You can also glue this onto a little girl's dress. But how beautiful these look when you want to make a journal cover and you want to add something onto the journal cover that is, you know, very complimentary to what you're doing. And you can collage and create all kinds of looks with it. Now, I don't have, I've just got a piece of music sheet here, I think. Yeah. Just to give you a cleaner look. But yeah, so this is the 2-inch wide fabric. So it does make approximately a 2-inch wide flower. You know, I might be out 1/8 of an inch or something, but it's approximately a 2-inch wide flower. And you can make them smaller. You can make a 1-inch wide. It's just, and you'd make it a little bit shorter. You'd make it about maybe 7 or 8 inches. And that would be the maximum, and so on. So it depends on, you know, your fabric that you're working with and how tightly you can tie it up, because sometimes you get too much bulk in the center. That means you need less fabric. But when you have this much bulk, then your flower poofs up nicely. So I made, now that was the 2-inch, and you saw how these are put together with just the stitching on the side. Easy to do, whether you do it by hand or whether you do it by machine. It takes a little longer by hand, but that's the only difference. And then this is the 4-inch wide, and it's a 20-inch piece. Now, I am not going to stitch this on camera because, yeah, that you'll fast forward, and there's nobody who's going to see it except me. So I've got one already made, so I'm going to show you what that one looks like. Now, here's where it gets fun. Now, this one had a hole in it, and I just quickly did a stitch and stitched it closed enough. But you take this same flower and you put this in the center. And isn't that beautiful? Like I would glue this down and just kind of sort of catch the glue around the edges, and it is done. Like there's nothing else to do to that flower. It's beautiful. But, you know, this is where I always tell you I never really can commit because I tend to do lots of these different flowers. Now I've lost one. Where did it go? Oh, here it is. So this is why I don't put the flowers together until I'm actually going to use them. So here's that gold mesh that I did last time. Again, there's a different look. Take one of these and stick it in the center. This might be just a bit too big, but if you take this smaller one and put it in there, isn't that just amazing? Like, how gorgeous is that? So you can dress this up for fascinator hats. You can make large bows or flowers to go on a little girl's dress. They just, especially if you make dresses for dress up, they love all this glitz and glamour and bling. So to be able to make these for your daughters or your granddaughters, or even, you know, a little girl that you look after or babysit, they just think you're amazing when you make this kind of stuff. Yes, my nieces had lots of this. I made lots of princess dresses in my lifetime. But now taking the same flowers and mixing them up, you know, you saw this lace, totally different look again. This one is one of my favorites still. This is that nasty Christmas ribbon that we took the edges off. You know, Hazel thought I didn't like gold because I had cut the edges off of this and made such a big stink about and taking off that nasty gold. It's not that I don't like gold. This is gold. I just didn't like the nastiness on that ribbon. So now you take this with the velvet and add a little one in the center, and look at that. Isn't that beautiful? Easy to do. So it depends on what you're going to use it with, as to what size you want to make. It depends on the fabrics you choose. It depends on, you know, the laces you have on hand. You can make all kinds of pretty flowers with this. You know, just to show you the different ones here that I had. Now, this is the only one I said I committed to. But again, it just gets more and more fun. And if you can imagine all of these collaged together on a page or on a journal cover, how beautiful they would be. So eventually we are going to make some leaves, but that will be a little ways down the road. But I do want to show you one more thing with this. But you can see how beautiful they're turning out already, right? I'm just going to lay that on top. I do have the smaller beaded ones here too. Because I find when you use the smaller flower, you don't want quite as big a bead cabochon. But I know you guys have been making them. I've had some great response from you guys that you love them, and you know, that one is quite pretty and effective on there too. So yeah, it just gets more and more fun the more you have to play with. And so these, I'm working in the reds and the kind of the mustard gold colors in the future. So I've just been collecting this stuff and working towards putting the journal covers together. I'm hoping that I will be able to show you one of these. It won't be exactly the kind of stuff that I'm doing for this client, but I will show you the finished results when it's done. So that just gives you some ideas. So one of these 3 small velvet flowers is not the same. And I'm just going to move this over, and we will stack them up again because they do look pretty. So there's this one, and there's that one, and that one. And can you tell which one is not the same? No, right? The reason I'm showing you this is because maybe you don't have enough fabric. Maybe your fabric isn't 10 inches wide and you still want to make these. This one is made with doing the yo-yo process. Like, I've shown you yo-yos before, but I will quickly show you again. So I have somewhere in this pile, I had cut up some pieces. Where did they go? Oh, here they are. So I just cut up a couple of pieces just to give you an idea. When I make yo-yos, I don't use a die machine. I don't sit there and cut round circles perfectly and trace them out. Life is too short. So I just take an approximate square Okay, so this is kind of squared off. I don't know what size we're going to get here, but we'll see. It's approximately, I think you'll probably get about 2 inches because I think this is close to a 4-inch square. So it doesn't have to be perfect. And so once I have the 4-inch squarish piece, I fold it up into a triangle. I fold it up into another triangle. And then another one. And if you can make it tighter, you can make it tighter. And I just round it into kind of like an ice cream cone. Does that make sense? And then you open it up. It's not going to be perfect because we're working with this kind of stuff. And, you know, we're just doing it on the fly. But it's sort of round. It's not the greatest round, but it's sort of round. And it doesn't matter if it's not the greatest round. Just got to find my thread and knot it at the end. In fact, this even has part of the seam in it. I'm not even going to worry about that. So I just pick a spot and starting on the outside, going very close to the edge of the fabric, I'm going to go around doing the same in and out slip stitch. Saturday, Friday night special. And pulling my thread so that I leave a little bit for tying off. And the only reason I put a knot in it is so that it won't slip through if I'm not paying attention. And yes, you could back stitch your starting point, but then you don't have anything to tie it off with. And I like to have that option. So I'm just going around the sort of round piece of fabric. And flowers aren't perfect anyway. They're not perfectly, they look like they're symmetrical, but they're not. Just like, you know, we are not perfectly. I'm sure there's differences in our two arms because one we use more, so one's bigger than the other, I think. And, oh, ouch. And just going around, almost there. And you'll see it starts to look like a little round ball. And ideally, I like to end on the same side that I started, only because it makes it easier for tying this off. Okay, so there's the two ends. And so this was the first knotted one. So I'm just going to pull it a little bit so I have something to work with to knot it. And again, I'm going to hold on to it and hopefully it doesn't slip out of my hands this time. And I'm going to gently pull this tight. So it's like a little bag or a little cap for a mouse. I don't know. What else would you call it? A little blob. And it starts to take shape. And I wouldn't worry too much about the shape at this point. As long as you have two ties and it's sort of almost gathered that you can tie with. So then I'm going to now tie it. I'm just going to bring my needle through here. And then, so pulling it tight as you can. And then knot it again. And one for good luck. Now I'm not going to cut the thread right away. So it's nice and tight, and I'm just going to do some shaping. And try to get the yo-yo to be as flat as possible. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut off this knotted side so that it is out of the way. That little knotted piece, just that. Now, if I wanted to, because I've got the needle here on with the thread and it's still attached to the yo-yo, I could add beads or a button, whatever I wanted to decorate this, and just go back and forth through the whole yo-yo, and it's done just by adding whatever I want on there, some beads or crystals or sequins or a button. But I want to use my same little cabochons that I've made because they're so gosh cute, right? But all I want to do now is just go in and out a couple of times so that once you've got your shape, it's going to stay in that shape, just stitching back and forth through the center. And I'm not worried about my stitches showing on the back because I know I'm going to be gluing it down to something or attaching it to something. But this just keeps all the fabric nicely lined up. And it just holds it all together in that fun shape. And then I just turn it over and either knot it or slip it through the back a little bit, a couple of times. It's not really to keep it from undoing, it's just to stitch it to itself. And yeah, I don't even knot it. So this just helps it to hold its shape so we know it's not going to go anywhere now. And it is now another flower in my pile here to work with. So that's it for today's video. I think this is an easy project, but at the same time, it's quite elegant, and the results are just so positive. You can add this onto here. I've got more of those little cabochons in different spots here, but here we go. Just to make it look pretty on the table for you. So isn't that beautiful? I can play with these things day in and day out in different colors, but right now I'm just concentrating on this for my project. Anyway, that's the end of this video. There are two really big floral videos that are coming up. I'm taking a 2-week break. 2 weeks is approximate. I may be back earlier than 2 weeks. I may be back a little bit later than 2 weeks, but I'm busy working on some other projects and my orders for my client, and so I have to get caught up. Having said that, tomorrow will be our Happy Mail movement. I have some Happy Mail to share with you, and that will be ongoing. That will not stop. Each week I will go and get my mail, do the video, and then get my envelope sent out, because, you know, that is fun, and I don't want anybody to wait for their envelope, and I want to show everybody's envelope. So that will be ongoing no matter what during the 2 weeks. I may throw in a Thrifty Canucks video if I have time. Excuse me. Sorry. Excuse me. Because I do have quite a bit of stuff to show you that I've collected. And then, wow, I don't know what happened here. And then I may fit in a couple of other small videos, but nothing too intense and nothing that is Techniques Tuesday. When we come back, it'll be 2 weeks of flowers in a row. These are going to be super duper fun. One of them, I know I'm going to just blow your mind when you see how they're done. Well, hopefully both of them. But they are just amazing fun, and they put a whole new level on floral making. And then we will go back to other things on Techniques Tuesday. I have other things planned. And then later on in the summer, I will do another floral technique. Not summer, but spring. Not that it's something that has to be done outside or anything like that. It's just that it is a bigger project, and it will take us 2 weeks to do the one project. But that, again, will be something that will wow you. But I think by the time I get the next 2 flowers done, you know, you might want me to do other things. Some people have been asking for tassels. I think Mary asked, and there was somebody else who asked about tassels. Yeah, I've got some other tassel ideas I'd like to show you. So that could be a possibility coming up in the future. And then there are a few other little embellishment projects that I want to share with you as well. But there's lots of things. The list never ends. I've got a huge, huge list. So, yeah, 2 weeks off, but, you know, you will see videos pop up. So please do join me for those videos. And it's really important, and I can't stress this enough. It really helps my channel. If you like the video, then please like the video. Leave me a comment. You know, share it with other people. Share it in your groups. You know, show people the techniques you've made. Show them where you learned it. And collaborate with me. You know, if you're another YouTube channel and you're doing this kind of stuff, I love to know what you're making, and I love to share the experience with you, and also share back to my customers or subscribers what you're doing and how you're maybe doing something different, so that we can, again, share each other's customers and subscribers. Excuse me. I don't know why I got this tickle all of a sudden. Anyway, that's it. That's all for today. I wish you all a very creative week, and I will be back again tomorrow with Happy Mail. So I will see you all soon. Bye for now.